Selamat malam Bu Aldi. Apa kabar Bu? Oh, oke. Nggak kenalin namanya. Halo. Selamat datang. Baru pulang, jadi baru olahraga. Besok seharusnya lebih sore. Oke, aku langsung lanjut bikin videonya ya. Oke, jadi ini day ke-6 buat olahraga tiap hari. Pertama-tama intinya kita udah memulai, kita pikirin maunya ngapain. Yang gampang, tapi bakal ngebawa momentum. Nah, yang sudah aku sering lakuin dan sejauh ini berhasil, itu ambil kaos kaki. Ya udah, kita ambil kaos kaki, lanjut terus aja dalam rangkaian kegiatan menuju olahraga, yaitu pakai kaos kakinya. Nggak ada yang lapar ya? Hah? Pada mau makan nggak? Oke, nah sekarang udah pakai kaos kaki, lanjut aja kita olahraga. Dan jangan lupa buat nyalain kalau ada smartwatch-nya buat mendeteksi detak jantung yang diinginkan, supaya kita olahraganya itu sesuai target. Yaitu kalau aku targetnya adalah target aerobik. Dan lanjut aja, kita set kecepatan 1,9, incline 10 buat mulai. Nanti ya biar nggak kemalaman ini olahraganya. Udah kemalaman ya Mi? Gak apa-apa deh, ntar aja, belum lapar banget. Oke, seperti biasa sembari kita olahraga, aku bakal sambil latihan artikulasi bahasa Inggris. Jadi don't main Inggrisnya ya. Tuh, aku atur dulu supaya mencapai detak jantung yang diinginkan dulu deh. Halo Tara, Dute udah ke ini? Udah berangkat belum ke New Zealand? Gua lagi lanjutin bikin series olahraga tiap hari niche. Tes suara nyambung kan? Mestinya nyambung sih. Hai guys, apa kabar guys? Masih suka olahraga nggak di rumah? Jangan makin jadi sedentary. Iya, aku rencana live tiap hari. Soalnya dapat motivasi dari penonton, dari komen-komenan semangat, anjay. Jadi sekalian ngebantu juga supaya olahraganya tiap harinya jalan gitu. Mestinya sih nanti aku ini sih, kalau udah mungkin mulai besok kali ya, aku bikin jadwal jadi kayak setiap hari jam 5 gitu. Kalau kemarin kan malam terus, mungkin besok lebih sore. Nah kayak gitu tuh, langsung semangat, langsung aduh bisa. Capek gini, ntar turunin dulu. Ini jamnya kayak ngaco deh, masih detak jantungnya kecil banget padahal udah ngos-ngosan. Oh iya, lupa timer lagi. Ya apa-apa deh, olahraga 30 menit pokoknya. Oke, sembari olahraga kita mau latihan artikulasi yang jelas. Hari ini latihannya Inggris. Lanjut. Our experience of oneness, a sense of merging or sharing identities, increases whenever we take someone else's perspective, and it strengthens the more we see things from their point of view. The moment when empathy becomes mutual has an especially... Oh iya, nah boleh. Jadi ada dua alasan. Intinya itu olahraga jalan mundur, dia lebih memfokuskan beban atau kayak tenaganya itu ke paha, ke otot paha. Nah itu ada dua dampaknya. Pertama, dia bakal mengolahragakan pahanya lebih banyak, dan oleh karena itu mengolahragakan juga lututnya. Jadi ini latihan yang bagus buat kesehatan lutut. Nah yang kedua alasannya adalah karena dia memakai otot pahanya lebih banyak dibandingkan kalau misalkan jalan maju, dia lebih capeknya dalam artian detak jantungnya lebih tinggi. Jadi buat olahraga aerobik yang fokusnya adalah ingin nge-maintain detak jantungnya di level tertentu, kalau yang aku namanya zona kedua ya, nah itu efektif. Jadi itu alasannya. Kalau aku sih buat kardionya, tapi bisa juga buat tujuan memperkuat lutut gitu. Cobain deh caranya gini, nyalain treadmill, jangan cepet-cepet, incline-nya cobain naikin, nah terus nyender ke treadmill sambil jalannya. Jadi bukan lepas, tapi nempel ke belakang. The moment when empathy becomes mutual has an especially rich resonance. Two tightly looped people, meshed minds, even smoothly finishing sentences for each other, a sign of a vibrant relationship that marital researchers call high-intensity validation. IU is a unifying relationship in which, for the time being, a special other is perceived as distinct from all others and is known in all her distinctive features. Such deep encounters are the moments we remember most vividly in our close relationships. Buber was referring to just this fully looped engagement when he wrote, "All real lives, all real living is meeting." Oh, jalan maju otot paha juga, tapi dia kebantu sama sama hamstring, karena dia kan narik kan, gerakannya narik kayak gini gitu. Sedangkan kalau ini kan kita pure nge-expand kaki doang gitu, jadi lebih nggak fokusin ke kaki. Nggak punya treadmill nggak apa-apa, bisa juga jalan mundurnya di komplek aja gitu, atau di jalan. Nanti kalau misalkan ada budgetnya ya bisa ke gym gitu. Kalau nggak, agak terlihat barbar, tapi bisa juga narik ban sebenarnya. Kalau ada talinya, ada bannya, ya kalau nggak beli bannya, dan kalau nggak malu, nggak apa-apa juga sih sebenarnya sih. Yes, betul. Yang penting ada beban yang supaya kalau kita ke belakang itu makin susah. Jadi kita kayak narik sesuatu gitu. Ada namanya itu sled. Itu kalau di gym tertentu ada. Ya tapi di gym sih. Kalau di rumah sih kalau beli itu mahal. Mendingan treadmill. Ya. Nah, aku bisa nih jalan mundur sambil lihat ke belakang. Nanti kalau udah berapa lama udah ngelatih keseimbangan, beberapa detik, apa ya? Iya, pokoknya sering-sering lihat ke belakang aja. Halo. Buber was referring to just this fully looped engagement when he wrote, "Oh yeah, sort of sainthood." Always to engage absolutely everyone we encounter. As a you is to ask too much of ourselves. Ordinary life inevitably swings between the two modes. Buber's soul. We have a sort of divided self, two tidily circled off provinces, one it, the other you. You covers our connected moments, but we handle the details of life in the it mode. Through utilitarian communications, focus on getting things done. The utility of the it. New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof has a distinguished record as a journalist and won a Pulitzer Prize for his investigative reporting. He has maintained his journalistic objectivity through wars, famines, and most of the major catastrophes of the last few decades. But one day in Cambodia, that detachment melted away. It happened while he was investigating the scandalous sale worldwide of thousands of children as slaves to sex traffickers. The decisive moment came when a Cambodian pimp presented to him a tiny, whispering teenage girl named Stray Nat. Kristof, as he tells it, did something dreadfully unjournalistic. He bought her for $150. Kristof took Stray Nat and another girl back to their village and set them free, helping them get a new start in their lives. A year later, Stray Nat finished at a beauty school in Phnom Penh and was looking forward to starting her own shop. Though tragically, the other girl was drifting back to the easy money. Writing about the girls in his column, Kristof moved numbers of readers to send donations to a charity that has helped Stray Nat and others like her restart their lives. Objectivity is one of the guiding Halo, selamat malam. Gue lagi olahraga sambil melatih artikulasi ngomong bahasa Inggris. Objectivity is one of the guiding principles of journalistic ethics. Ideally, the journalist remains a neutral observer, tracking events and reporting on them as they happen, rather than interfering with them in any way. Christophe had stepped out of the tightly boundaried role of journalist, crossing that gap of detachment to enter the story himself. The journalist code is a mandate for an I-it relationship, much like the codes held by many other professionals, from doctors to police officers. A surgeon should not operate on someone with whom she has a strong personal relationship, lest her feelings interfere with her mental clarity. A police officer, in theory, should never let a personal connection influence impartial policing. The principle of keeping a professional distance is intended to protect both parties from the wobbly, unpredictable influence of emotions in the execution of their expertise. Maintaining that distance means seeing a person in terms of their role: patient, criminal, without attuning to the person within the role. While the low road connects us instantly to the other person's distress, the prefrontal systems can increase our emotional separation enough so we can think more clearly. This balance makes empathy effective. The it mode has decided advantages for daily life, if only for getting routine business out of the way. Implicit social rules guide us in deciding which people. Hai Rina, selamat malam. Apa kabar? Gua lagi olahraga, sambil latihan Inggris. Baru olahraga sore-sore karena baru pulang. Ya nggak juga sih, tapi baru ada niat. Nah itu nggak bagus. Besok kita benahi, kita koreksi supaya lebih nggak terlalu sore. While the low road connects us instantly to the other person's distress, the prefrontal systems can increase our emotional separation enough so we can think more clearly. This balance makes empathy effective. The it mode has decided advantages for daily life, if only for getting. Implicit social rules guide us in deciding which people we need not look with. Daily life seems rife with them. Anytime we are expected to interact with someone in terms of their social role alone, the waitress, the store clerk, we treat them as a one-dimensional, ignoring the rest of them, their human identity. Jean-Paul Sartre, the 20th century French philosopher, saw this one-dimensionality as a symptom of a broader alienation in modern life. He described public roles as a ceremony of sorts, a well-scripted way of acting in which we treat others as an it and are treated as such in return. There is the dance of the grocer, of the tailor, of the auctioneer, by which they endeavor to persuade their clientele that they are nothing but a grocer, a tailor, an auctioneer. But Sartre says nothing of the benefits we derive from avoiding an endless string of IU encounters. Thanks to this I-it masquerade. A waiter's dignified aloofness spares him intrusions into his private life and at the same time creates a sphere of privacy for the dinners he serves. Staying in his role allow a waiter to get things done efficiently while he retains the internal autonomy to turn his attention to his private interests and pursuits, even if they involve only daydreaming and fantasy. Halo. Hai, selamat malam. Sudahkah kamu berolahraga? Aku lagi latihan artikulasi ngomong Inggris sambil olahraga. Lagi olahraga, seperti yang Anda lihat, tidak lebih, tidak kurang. Mantap. Sambil live, siapa tahu ada yang mau ikutan. Apakah itu kamu? Enggak, mestinya pagi. Tapi baru pulang sore tadi. Jadi malam. Besok sore juga sih. Tapi nggak malam. Semoga. Ya sudah. Aku lanjut latihan ngomong Inggris lagi ya. His role provides him with a bubble of privacy, even in public life. Making small talk poses no threat to this bubble, so long as it remains small, and the person in the it role always has an option to attend to someone as a you, temporarily stepping into full personhood. But generally, the role itself operates as a sort of screen, partially blocking out the person who fills it. At least at first, we see the it, not the person. When we encounter casual acquaintances, our rapport heightens to the degree that we both engage in a non-verbal dance of mutual attention, smiling, coordinating posture and movement, and the like. But when we meet someone in a professional role, we tend to focus on a need or on some desired outcome. Studies of people interacting with those in a formal helping role, physician, nurse, counselor, psychotherapist, show that the standard ingredients of rapport there are notably weaker on both sides than between people in informal encounters. This goal-oriented focus presents a challenge to helping professionals. Rapport, after all, matters for the effectiveness of the professional encounter. In psychotherapy, the interpersonal chemistry between therapist and client determines whether a working alliance will form. In medicine, a good rapport helps the patient trust the physician sufficiently to comply with his recommendations. People in helping professions must work hard to ensure that the ingredients of rapport operate during their professional encounters. Their detachment needs to be balanced with sufficient empathy to allow at least a bit of IU feeling to bloom. The pain of rejection, the moment of truth for Mary Duffy, when she realized that she had ceased being known as a person and was now simply the carcinoma in room B2, came to her the morning after her surgery for breast cancer. Duffy was still half asleep when, without any warning, she was surrounded by white-coated strangers, a doctor and a group of medical students. The doctor, without a word, pulled off her blanket and stripped off her nightgown as though she were just a mannequin, leaving her naked. Too weak to protest, Duffy managed a sarcastic, "Well, good morning," to the doctor, who ignored him. Instead, he launched into a lecture on carcinoma for the gaggle of medical students who circled her bed. They dully stared at her naked body, detachedly indifferent to her. Finally, the doctor decided to speak directly to Duffy, asking distractedly, "Have you passed gas yet?" When she tried to assert a bit of humanity with a snappy comeback, "No, I don't do that until the third date." The doctor looked offended, as though she had let him down. What Duffy so urgently wanted. Meow. 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 Oke, udahan ya. Distance-nya 1 kilo. Oke, jadi udahan ya. Oke, jadi ini hari ke-6. Refleksi hari ini, awalnya ini udah jam 8, tadi aku mulai olahraga. Awalnya menunda-nunda lagi, kenapa? Karena hari ini aku nggak punya jadwal. Di secara habit, kekurangannya adalah aku nggak punya jadwal, jadi aku nunda-nunda sampai malam. Next time kita bikin jadwal, kapan kita mau olahraga, dan kita bikin notifikasi supaya ketika mau olahraga, ada triggernya. Oke, terus kemudian tapi tadi kalau setelah aku meyakinkan diriku sendiri bahwa mulai live dulu aja, habis itu pakai kaos kaki, olahraga, sekarang akhirnya berhasil olahraga selama 26 menit. Secara fisik, aku kayak nggak bakal record lagi perkembangan kemampuan fisik, ya boleh deh supaya buat senang-senang doang ya. Jadi tadi masih kayak sekitar 2,2 km per jam dengan incline-nya sekitar 7 atau 8. Itu aku masih di aerobic level. Dari total 26 menit tadi, aku mencapai aerobik selama sekitar 18 menit. Oke, see you in day 7 ya. Bye-bye.